Alright, now everyone who's been subscribed to my channel should know that Blade Runner 1982 is my favorite film of all time. I know, big shocker. For years since I've been on YouTube, I've been wanting to make a whole video on Blade Runner, talking about how brilliant it is and how revolutionary it was to the film industry. But sadly, there's like a shit ton of videos talking about Blade Runner. I really don't know what I can say about this movie that a million people haven't said already. But hey, I'm willing to give it a shot. This is my favorite film of all time, so why the fuck not, right? So where do I even begin? Blade Runner came out in the year 1982, a year where E.T., Wrath of Khan, The Thing, Gandhi, Creepshow, and Conan the Barbarian came out. So a stacked year for film, to say the least. Now, Blade Runner didn't really have the best reception. Critics like Siskel and Ebert didn't really enjoy it. It didn't make its money back at the box office, and people really hated how the whole film was narrated poorly by Harrison Ford. So throughout the years, we got a director's cut and a final cut of Blade Runner, taking away the narration and restoring its visuals to make it look even more amazing than it is. You see, Blade Runner has been through a lot. It's had a lot of weird reception-wise, because when it came out, it was not as well praised, and then it became praised in the 90s, and now in 2022, people call it very overrated. People find it boring, tedious, and don't understand the love it gets. They don't understand why people love it so much. I, for one, I'm not one of those people. I think Blade Runner is a smart, creative, visually striking film that everyone should at least watch once in their life. I think now in this day and age where the movie industry is run by superhero films or films with highly political themes and messages in it, it's really great to watch a sci-fi classic like Blade Runner, and how masterful the story is and how brilliant the film techniques are in this film. What I love so much about this movie is that it has terrific characters, it has sympathetic villains, it has a very complex romantic interest, and a really confused and damaged protagonist. So, what is Blade Runner about? It's set in November 2019, Los Angeles. I know. That's our future. I mean, past. So former police officer Rick Deckard is detained by Officer Gaff, played by Edward James Olmos, and is brought to his former supervisor, Bryant, played by Emmett Walsh. Deckard, whose job is a Blade Runner, which is to track down bioengineered humanoids known as replicants, and permanently retire them, which is basically kill them. Deckard begins to leave, but Bryant wants to have him catch these replicants who have escaped. These are 3 replicants named Leon, Zora, and Pris. And, Zora, Pris, and Roy Batty. I forgot the most important one. The opening has Leon shooting a Blade Runner named Holden when he's interrogating him, and it's very brilliant psychological opening. And yeah, it's up to Deckard to find these replicants and retire them. So during Deckard's search of the replicant, he also sparks a romance with Rachel, who who becomes a person he has a sort of affection to. She is a replicant, but thinks she's human. Deckard feels a connection to Rachel, whether it's through sympathy or even relatability, because as we see throughout the movie, Deckard himself questions his own humanity and thinks to himself if he's truly a human. The film does all of that brilliant questioning of humanity and of questioning ourselves and our motives and stuff. Now, the villains in the story are fascinating because they're just looking for Tyrell, just so they can live. Replicants only have a 4-year lifespan. They're just looking for Tyrell so they can live. Roy Batty and his crew believe they need the right to live like a human, have freedoms like human beings, because replicants in this world are almost treated as slaves. All they want is equality for themselves. Roy Batty throughout the whole movie does very terrible things, but he does things with a purpose. He has been treated with pain and disrespect his entire life, and all he wants is to live it. This is all beautifully portrayed, obviously, by Rutger Hauer. It's so good. Most people, when they watch Blade Runner, they don't even consider Roy Batty a villain. He's a character who's just desperate and just wants to live a life, and he wants all that freedom for himself, his crew, and other replicants. We even see at the end of the movie when he saves Rick Deckard's life, yeah, spoilers, you see he doesn't want death and destruction, but freedom. He even delivers a beautiful speech about tears in the rain, which represents his life and his memories. It's truly one of the most beautiful and heartbreaking moments in the entire film. The ending also adds more thought-provoking ideas, where Deckard sees an origami of a unicorn that Officer Gaff left him. Many people theorize that this represents Deckard, and the unicorn represents Deckard's memories and his existence. Is Deckard a replicant? We'll never know, which I love. The film doesn't spoon-feed you answers like a lot of films do nowadays. You see, Blade Runner is a smart and beautiful film that no one can ever make again. Between Ridley Scott's brilliant direction, Jordan Crenworth's screenplay, and the perfect music by Vangelis, rest in peace, by the way, I know so many people call this film overrated, but out of the clusterfuck of bad movies we get nowadays, movies like Blade Runner is something people should actually be watching. There's a reason film students study this film in film school. There's a reason this film eventually got a sequel 30 years later. It's because the film is so damn important. It's so damn groundbreaking. Blade Runner is a special film that means a lot to film lovers. Is the film perfect? Of course not. No film is perfect, but Blade Runner is pretty fucking close to perfect. It is one of the greatest science fiction films ever made. It does everything a good sci-fi film does. It creates layered characters, a thought-provoking plot, and themes and ideas that people will study for years to come. Also, the music's fucking incredible, and the visuals are orgasm for the eyes. But I digress. Yes, like I could talk forever about how visually stunning this film is, and the visual making of this film is what inspired films like Ghost in the Shell and The Matrix, but whatever. Blade Runner has an interesting history to it. It's a film that will be talked about until the end of time. Some people will call it a masterpiece, like myself. Others will call it a boring, overrated snooze fest, which is fine. To me, it will always be a masterpiece. It will always be my favorite film of all time. Yes, I know a lot of people would have wanted something different, something more action-oriented, because the film is not an action film. I know there's action sequences in the film, but it is not an action film. It is a character study. It is an investigation film. It is more like a crime film. It's a noir. It's a neo-noir film. That's what it is. It's not an action sci-fi film. It's not a Terminator. It's not a Die Hard. It is a noir film. This film is like something out of the 60s brought into the 1980s and stuff. And I know a lot of people wanted me to probably talk about Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which was released in 1968, written by Philip K. Dick, which is the book that is Blade Runner is based off of. Maybe I can do a whole video about the relatability of the book and the film and stuff. The book is just so much different than the film, but there's a lot of similarities and stuff. And whether you like the book more than the film doesn't take away from the film. And you don't have to read the book to understand the film and the brilliance that is happening within the film. I could talk about the performances too. Again, like Harrison Ford is fantastic. Take away the narration, Harrison Ford is incredible in this film. A very broken character. Borderline unlikable and sometimes, and very, he's got some questionable moments in the film, to say the least. But I love his romance with Rachel. Sean Young as Rachel is incredible. Rutger Hauer gives Oscar-worthy performance as Roy Batty. I love Daryl Hannah as Pris. I love everyone's performance, and I even love side characters like Tyrell and JF Sebastian. There's just so much to this film. And the film doesn't overstay its welcome. It's an hour and 58 minutes. Or if you get the final cut, it's 2 hours on the dot. It doesn't go overly long, and it doesn't overly rush things too. You're set into this world, set into this story, and you know these characters well enough to understand all of their motives. It is a perfectly paced and very perfectly written film. I can go on and on and on about this film. Again, Go on YouTube right now. There are millions of analytical views of what the meaning of Blade Runner is. Is Rick Deckard, is he a replicant, or what is he and stuff? I believe he's a replicant, but that's just a theory and stuff. But I feel like in a modern time like this, that we're filled with superhero films and comic book films, we don't get groundbreaking, deep thinking films like Blade Runner. People should watch this. People should study this. This film is important. Anyways, thanks for all listening to me. Let me jerk this film off for a little bit. And yeah, to me, Blade Runner is one of the best films ever made. But hey, that's just my opinion.